Hi, my name is Sethuraman, VP of Product Line Management, Cambium Networks. I'm here with John Mead. And we're going to be talking about some exciting topics around cloud-managed wireless-aware switching. John, I heard a rumor
Yes.
that you came to Cambium on a mission. Now, what is that mission?
So this was an opportunity that I could not pass up. I've been working on switches for a very, very long time. I know what works and what doesn't work. So coming to Cambium and starting a switching portfolio from the ground up, what an opportunity. So anyway, I went for it, and that was about 4 years ago. Boy, those 4 years have gone by fast. So what did I do? Well, there's three main pillars that I focused on to build this strong foundation for our switches. Pillar number one, maybe not that exciting, but we put a lot of time and energy into it. High quality, robust switches. These switches are designed to last a long time for our customers. And we back that up. We have a 5-year limited lifetime warranty on these switches. Number two, ease of use. This one's even bigger. We wanted to make these switches easy to deploy, easy to manage, easy to configure, easy to maintain, and easy to troubleshoot. Now, it's not about troubleshooting the switch. It's about troubleshooting your network. So the problem that you're experiencing in your network, it may be the switch, it may be some other device in the network, but how do you make it easy to troubleshoot your network? Okay, pillar number three. Well, the switch has to have the functionality that the customer wants, right? So we wanted this to be a feature-rich switch. So L2 switching capability, L3 switching capability, advanced features with our L3 dynamic routing, not always available at the edge, and also a feature called PBA, policy-based automation, that we're going to talk about a lot more today. So those were the three key pillars for a strong foundation for our switches. And on top of that, the icing on the cake is some very innovative features, mainly, again, the PBA feature that I talked about earlier. So, Rad, you speak a lot about our customers, our partners, industry analysts. What do you see as the key trends out there in the switching industry?
See, in general, if you look at networking, there's tremendous amount of
I've heard about that. Yeah, lots of that stuff.
Start on the previous question again, sorry.
Take two. All right. So, Rad, you speak a lot of customers, partners, and industry analysts. What are the key trends that you are seeing out there in the switching industry today?
See, the network is becoming mission critical for organizations of all shapes and sizes, right? And if at all anything, over the last 12 months with COVID, this importance of the network has been underlined, right? There is it's oftentimes a cliche, right? I mean, people, enterprise IT, other service providers, their requirements on the network is ever increasing.
Yep.
But their budgets are either flat or declined over the years.
Yep.
So then, the user expectation has been constantly going up, right? Every user expects to have an awesome experience in the network, be it a wireless network. Most of them are connecting wirelessly nowadays, right? And so IT is faced with this challenge, increasing complexity. The network is converging. You have wired devices, wireless devices, you have IoT devices joining the network. Complexity is going up.
Yes, it is.
User expectation is skyrocketing. Now, how do I deliver an SLA? How do I deliver an optimal customer experience? Right? That's the problem statement.
Right.
So, and first and foremost, what does it mean? What does it mean to solutions that we deliver to customers? First and foremost, it's about simplicity. And you talked about that. It's simplicity for the whole end-to-end life cycle of the network, all the way from how do I deploy it, how do I configure it, how do I monitor this network, how do I troubleshoot, right? The second thing is, what can the network do more in terms of automation, right? Increasingly, enterprises are distributed. There is no IT staff in every one of those locations. And automation can really help drive operational efficiency, right? and reduce the burden on the IT staff by doing things. If you can recognize what's happening in the network and take corrections. For example, right? Most organizations have a standard for, hey, this is the level of software that should be running on my infrastructure. Somebody makes a local change. Can the system detect, hey, it is now changing from what my standard is, and I revert back and I tell me, hey, I saw this change, I took this action. That is an automation step, right? So that really starts to then eliminate the burden on the IT staff, eliminate the chances of errors creeping into my network, basically translates to better uptime of that network, right?
That's right.
So ultimately, what's automation translates to zero-touch experiences all the way from deployment to ongoing management. The third leg, I would say, is around cloud management, right? And cloud management means a few things, right? First and foremost, it means simplicity. It also means a massively scalable operations. And cloud management is more of a mentality of how you do the cloud-first thinking, right, which attacks those key points. And that's the reason why you see today cloud-managed networking is the fastest growing. It's over, Wi-Fi side, it's about 50% plus growth in the last quarter. Fastest growing subsegment of this market because it brings in improved visibility. You get more analytics, and it gives you a lot of remote troubleshooting tools when you're trying to manage a disparate network spread across multiple locations.
Yep.
But then it comes down to economics, right? How can I do all of this? How can I get the best? How can I do the best next generation network deployment at the lowest total cost of ownership? And so those are common themes. When you talk to analysts, you talk to customers, these are common themes across the board.
Yep.
The old way of doing things is no longer good enough, right? You need to change with the times. Infrastructure needs to be more reflect that mentality.
That's right.
So, John, you touched, when I talked about automation, you talked about a little bit about automation too, right? So, and you talked something about policy-based automation?
Automation.
PBA, yeah. So, tell me a little bit more. What does it do? I'm the customer, right? I told you what my problem is. How are you going to help solve that?
So a couple things, Rad. So be careful. If I start talking about PBA, I'm going to talk for hours. But I heard you mention a few things over and over. Simplicity, automation, security. PBA can solve those three things for you. And let me tell you a little bit about it. So how does PBA work? When you connect a device to your switch, what do we do? What do our switches do? Well, we learn as much about that device as we can, as much as possible. And we apply that to any policies that were previously created. So a network administrator will create a policy for his network that is targeted at a certain type of device. And he can create one or more policies. So what do? We automatically learn about the devices connected, automatically see if that matches one of the policies, and we will automatically enforce that policy, which means we will automatically configure the switch. So there's the automation. Automatically configure the switch and automatically configure that port where the device was just detected, not the other ports. So that's kind of cool, right? This automation, this automated configuration, right? So showing this to a customer is great. You look at the configuration and it's empty. You plug in a device, you look at the configuration again, and voila, all this configuration is automatically applied. So it's a great demo to give.
Wait, that sounds pretty good. Let me understand this, right? So
sure.
Typically, if I go to a wiring closet in an enterprise setting or in any network, you see all these sort of the ports are color coded. Hey, these ports are for Wi-Fi access points, these are for printers, these are for user devices.
That's right.
And what you're telling me here is I don't need to do this color coding anymore. Is that correct?
So I'm talking about automation, right? You plug in a device, the switch automatically configures itself, right? Well, how did you do that in the past? Well, in the past, what people would do is they would hard code their ports on their switches. Ports 1 through 4 would be hard coded for Wi-Fi access points. Ports 5 through 8 might be hard coded for video surveillance cameras. Yes, you're correct. You no longer have to do that. A port is a port is a port. You plug your device into any port you want, and it gets automatically configured as a result of PBA. And this auto configuration is fun to talk about, right? And it's fun to demo. But what's even more important is what happens when you remove that device from the switch. Well, we automatically clean up any configuration that is associated to that device. So if you have VLANs open on that port, maybe sensitive VLANs on sensitive networks like your financial network, well, when you unplug that device that is approved for those networks, we will automatically clean up that configuration and remove those VLANs in that example. So very, very secure with PBA. So let's move to...
No, wait, before you move, right?
Sure.
I'm still a little trying to understand the scope.
It's okay. It's okay. Keep going.
So I get it, right? I mean, if for example, if it's a Cambium access point connecting to a cnMatrix switch, I kind of profile that device and configure that port.
Yep.
But look, there is a plethora of devices in my network.
Yeah.
Right? From a lot of different vendors, a lot of different makes of video camera, for example. Yeah, how does it translate to that world of like the wild, wild west sort of in terms of device types out there?
So how many devices are there out there? 3, 4, 5,000 devices? So PBA is not restricted to this device type or this device type. PBA enables you to develop policies for any type of device you want.
So so I, as the end user, I create my own policy for the device.
That's right. So you as the network administrator, you know what devices are allowed on your network and that you're going to be plugging into your network, and you can develop policies for those devices. But what about rogue devices? You can also...
Wait, do I need to be like a massive programmer to create these policies? I mean, I don't know your switch that well, right?
Yeah, give it a try. In 1 minute, you could configure a policy on our switch. Okay. No problem at all.
That's pretty cool.
You can create a policy for these device types. You can also create a policy for any type of rogue device. You may not want some devices or devices that you're not aware of on your network. So it's a very secure feature and very secure functionality.
So does it also translate to, for example, right? We have a segmentation policy for the network, right?
Yep.
I may have a building infrastructure VLAN where all my video cameras, my HVAC systems all go in there.
Yep.
And I have my financial systems on the corporate VLAN, for example.
That's right.
Now a new device joins, and I can actually make a decision to say where this network should be, where this device should be.
Yep.
And it's automatically configure the port, and it shows up on that network that way?
It's all a part of the policy. If you have a network with 200 video surveillance cameras, when you plug that video surveillance camera in, there's no manual configuration. There's no chance for making a human error. Because of PBA, that policy that matches that video surveillance camera will be automatically applied, automatically enforced, and that port will automatically be put onto the right segment or VLAN. So that device will be segmented as desired.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you get segmentation, you get auto device profiling, you get the policy dynamically applied to that based on the device type.
Right.
And
Brad,
lots of capabilities here.
We're only scratching the surface. There's all kinds of configuration that could be related to these devices, right? You have security-related configuration. You have QoS-related configuration. Simple things like just naming that device. You plug a printer into port 5, you want to label port 5 as having a printer plugged into it. You can do that with other switches in the industry today, but manually. You have to manually enter that label for that port. With PBA, it gets automatically applied. Everything is automated, and as I mentioned before, when you unplug that device, everything is automatically cleaned up. So simplicity is the key here, right? All your adds, moves, and changes require zero interaction, zero manual configuration. You plug in the device, you unplug the device, everything is zero touch. So let's move to the third item of PBA, which is kind of how does it affect your total cost of ownership? So zero touch, right? So your IT staff, do you need a highly trained, highly paid IT staff member to plug in your devices? No, you don't. When it comes time to connecting devices or moving devices from one port to another port, anybody can do it. You just unplug it and plug it in. So this error-prone time-consuming manual configuration no longer is required with adds, moves, and changes. So overall, it lowers the cost, the time, and energy required in maintaining and managing your network.
You know, John, I think this is a ideal solution for I was talking to recently to a retail customer. They have 1,800 stores geographically distributed. Obviously, they don't have IT staff in every one of those stores. A typical store network consists of, Wi-Fi access points. They have obviously a lot of the point-of-sale machines. They have a lot of IoT type devices. They offer guest access to their clients coming in. Obviously, the client, the staff devices also connect to the network. And their problem statement, right, is for me, if I had to make, and these stores are very dynamic. A lot of things happening all the time. People are connecting new devices coming on. The store is expanding. They want to do mobile POS, for example. And so their thing is, if I have to send a staff person on site, that is super expensive.
Very expensive, right? Yep.
And so they want to have, and it's hard to say, hey, if you want to make a switch configuration change, make sure you go to the closet, you give them the port number to connect to, etc. Right? It's just an error-prone process. So a lot of times it's a trade-off for them. Do I send somebody and incur the cost, or take the risk of a human error into that?
Hey, let me chime in here for a second. You know what they say? 80% of all network failures and network outages are due to misconfiguration of the network. That misconfiguration can be caused by multiple reasons. But when you automate this configuration, you remove that chance of misconfiguration. So it's a big win for you.
So to net it out, I see this as, if you're a distributed enterprise, especially if you're a distributed enterprise, and operational efficiency is a key goal for you, PBA is the answer.
PBA
policy-based automation. Sounds pretty cool.
It is very cool. Very cool.
Very good.
Yeah. Rad. So Cambium's doing okay, right? We're doing great. There's a lot of things happening at Cambium, and that includes the Ethernet switching, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk to me about our current strategy? Where are we going with our Ethernet switching?
Yeah, look, I think if you look at the Cambium strategy, we are today operating in over 150 countries.
Yep.
We have a cloud management system with devices connecting from these different countries, right? We also serve different market segments, from small, medium enterprises to large education campuses to ISP networks, hospitality.
Yeah.
And one size doesn't fit all.
That's right.
Right? So our goal is to say, how do we build solutions that are purpose-built for the target segments use cases? And the use cases both technical in nature. They have some feature set. They want certain specific use cases they want to solve. But it also comes down to an economic value proposition, right? Certain segments, certain geographical locations are a little bit more price sensitive. They're willing to sacrifice some features for a better price point, et cetera. So what is the answer? How do you solve for this, right? And it comes down to product segmentation, right? Yep. So on the enterprise switching side, we have two product families: the EX2000 series, which is truly a best of breed type of capabilities, right? Full, and those are switches being demonstrated here. So you have 8, 16, 24 port, 48 port configurations, PoE, non-PoE. Yep. We actually have a the 16 port configuration with BT power and 2.5 gig interfaces. Yeah. Guess what? The big trend in the industry is on Wi-Fi side is Wi-Fi 6. Yep. This is a perfect pair for when you're going to Wi-Fi 6. That's right. There's a switch that goes with it. That's right. Right? Now on the other side, and it's full layer 3 switching I mentioned. Now there are a set of customers who want more cost effective. They want only layer 2 functionality. They don't need the need for 10 gig uplinks, for example. So for them, we have the EX1K series, which is, again, we have the same software running across the board. So you get the full feature set, but it's layer 2 only. That's right. And it has certain, but it's at a more attractive price point for that target segment. Yep. Yep. Now, that's on the enterprise switching side.
Let me stop you there for a second. This enterprise access market that we're talking about right now, it is not a small market. This market, it's an $8 billion market for these access switches. I'm talking about just the access or just the edge of your network. I'm not talking about the core. I'm not talking about data center. It's a huge market. Are you going to try to cover that market with just one switch? You'd make too many compromises. No one would buy it. You wouldn't make anybody happy. So that's why, as you said, we have the EX1K series of switches. We also have the EX2K series of switches.
Perfect. Now, that's on the enterprise side, right?
That's right.
So we also have a strong customer base and on the ISP front.
Yep.
And when we talk to ISP customers, right, there's always this challenge for them in terms of the complexity of the tower deployment.
Yes.
You know, they have solutions today, but quite not cutting it, you know. Yeah. So if there is an opportunity to simplify that network, collapse the number of boxes you need,
yep,
simplify the networking in that tower site, that's a huge win, right? So the TX series switches is really purpose-built for that market.
Yes, it is.
And
so
I know that's...
Yeah, we've heard this a lot, right? We've talked to these ISPs, and the deployment is not simple. It's the opposite from simple. You need so many different types of boxes. You need switches. You need devices for your timing synchronization. You need power injection boxes. It ends up being a very messy deployment. The cabling infrastructure, now that's a rat's nest right there. So we've gotten a lot of feedback on this topic, and that's why we came out with these TX switches.
But again, going back to this purpose-built concept, right?
Yep.
That's a core strategy. Now, tell us a little bit more about TX. What are the key requirements, and how have you approached that product line?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Yeah, so these TX switches, it's just not another line of switches. Purpose-built for these ISP deployments. So we've learned about these ISPs and what they need, and we wanted to give them a simple, single-box solution. So in this box, we give them everything that they need. So number one, what do they need? Well, they need a switch. So we gave them an enterprise-grade, feature-rich, non-blocking L2, L3 switch. But what else is needed in these tower deployments? It doesn't stop there. They also need things like intelligent PoE, right? It's not just about standards-based PoE. In this market segment, you also need passive PoE as well. High voltage with 54 volts, low voltage passive PoE. We supply all of that in this single box. What else do you get with these TX switches? Well, you know, when you're connecting these radios and when you're connecting the Cambium radios, you need a timing synchronization mechanism, so Cambium Sync. So do you buy another box for Cambium Sync? No. It's also integrated into these TX switches. So these TX switches really do provide the customer a single box solution that makes these deployments very, very easy and simple to deploy. So this one box, L2, L3 switching, Cambium Sync, intelligent PoE, and it comes with dual removable redundant power supplies, which is a big hit. Everybody is asking about these.
So are these like field replaceable units?
Absolutely. It's available in the front panel of the box. Everything that I'm talking about here is available on the front panel of the box. In these tower deployments, sometimes it can be very hard to get around to the rear panel. So these power supplies, as an example, they slide into the front of the box, and they're meant to be field replaceable.
But John, these are like, you know, the environments at the tower site.
Yeah.
It's not like an enterprise office, right?
That's right.
They are maybe not air-conditioned buildings, things like that, right? Are you doing something there to ruggedize these switches?
Yes. So these TX switches are meant to go inside of an enclosure. You can't put them out in the snow and the rain, but they are hardened. They are ruggedized from a temperature point of view. So a wide temperature range on these TX switches. It really does give you everything you need. You know, I've talked about the PoE, I've talked about the Cambium Sync, I've talked about the enterprise switching capabilities. But what you get along with that are all the things that we've talked about today. Simplicity. Right? So the automation, the PBA, it works on these switches too. When you plug in a radio, if you want Cambium Sync to be applied to that port, you can have that done automatically with a PBA policy. You don't have to do any manual configuration on that switch. So simplicity with these TX switches. and highly secure with these TX switches. It really is a switch that's getting a lot of notice, a lot of demand, a lot of interest out there. These TX switches are available today, right? We're not talking about a future portfolio. We've been shipping these switches for about 3 months now.
Hey, I'm still stuck on that dual power supply because that is a requirement.
That means two. There's two power supplies.
That part I got.
Yes.
Right, but I get enough of enterprise customers who are doing a mission critical network saying, hey, the switches don't normally fail, but anything that fails is possibly the weakest link there is a power supply. Right? And they want a dual power supply. And not everybody, but some of them want it.
Yep.
Now, can the TX switch with this dual power supply option that you gave, will that work on that network?
Absolutely. So you can use these switches with just one power supply. You get 100% of the functionality with this one power supply. If you use two power supplies, it gives you the redundancy and the peace of mind that you want for these tower deployments. You do not want your switch that provides network connectivity to all of your customers to go out. So these dual removable redundant power supplies is a very important feature. And these power supplies come in different types and different shapes. You know, we have 6 that we offer at Cambium. AC power supplies, as well in very big demand are the DC power supplies. And they come in various sizes as far as how much PoE power budget you need, which depends on what type of radios you're going to be deploying. Now, if you start needing more power, you need bigger power supply, very easy to replace these. These are hot swappable power supplies.
So that's a lot of things going on that switch.
Yeah, it's great. It's keeping us busy. Everyone wants one. We can't make them fast enough. So, Rad, over to you. So we're talking a lot about management. We're talking a lot about right-sized management. How does this play out here? Tell me a little bit about this.
Well, at the risk of sounding a little repetitive, I'll say this, right? Our mentality to management is a cloud-first thinking.
Yep.
Right. What does it mean again? It's about massive scalability and really simplicity. So those are the 2 key tenets. And that philosophy kind of filters through. So when you take switching, right? Switching has been around for a while. And there are customers who will say, you know what, hey, I'm used to CLI-based management. So we do have an industry standard CLI. You have a web user interface for managing the switch itself. Right? But that still restricts you to manage it one switch at a time. Right? When you're doing a broader network with many switches, that's where the power of cloud management, which is by the way, a license-free cloud management for the switches, right? Option.
License-free?
License-free on the cnMatrix product line.
Okay.
We also support it on our XMS portfolio. So for the Xeris install base, deploying more of the higher-end APs, multi-radio designs, the switch is a good accompaniment to that network as well.
Right.
But more importantly, when you kind of look for simpler networks, people are now more and more used to a mobile experience. So we have a Swift mobile app.
It's very cool.
And that's available both on Android and iOS. That gives you a fairly powerful tool, right? You can use your mobile device to kind of now configure the network. In fact, do some monitoring on that network as well. So really, it's much like I talked about the portfolio and being right-sized. Management also is one size doesn't fit all, and we give multiple flavors of management so that they can have it their way, how customers deploy this network.
Very nice. I like that Swift mobile app. Sounds great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Check it out.
It's easy to use.
You have it on your phone?
I do, of course.
Good. So, John, we talked a bunch here, right? I wanted to give me a couple of different things. One, I wanted to kind of net it out, right? I'm a customer looking for it. So if I'm a customer looking for cnMatrix or a switching, just net it out why I should consider cnMatrix. And also, I wanted you to tell me, you created the product. Obviously, you're very excited. The passion is coming out. But I want to also share with me, what are some of your customers telling about cnMatrix?
Yes, very good. Yeah, we've talked a lot today. We've mentioned a lot of things, but a few key takeaways. Please, these 3 or 4 items, right? Number 1, what is cnMatrix? It's a switch. It's an enterprise-grade switch, non-blocking architecture, fully featured with L2 and L3 switching, okay? Number 2, we've talked about simplicity quite a bit. Zero-touch simplicity with our PBA feature, right? It gives you a true zero-touch experience, not only for the initial deployment of the switches, but also for your day-to-day operations of the switches as you add, move, and change your devices on the network. Security. Everyone's talking about security. We have automated security with auto segmentation, auto device profiling, and auto policy enforcement. And with all the features that we've talked about today, even our management, cnMaestro, you just mentioned free licensing, right? You consider all these features we've talked about. Every one of those features, you do not need an added subscription or license for those features. One base price for the switch, and you get it all. So what that leads to is industry-leading total cost of ownership. It really is an attractive offering. So we've talked a lot. Brad, you've said a lot. I've said a lot. But what are others saying in the industry? So if you go out there and you do a search and you look at some of the reviews that are being written out there, so I'm going to give you a couple quotes, okay? So from a large financial institute.
Wait, this is from the Gartner peer reviews, it looks like?
Gartner peer reviews or anywhere else. But yeah, go to the Gartner peer reviews. This is where I got these. So cnMatrix, the easiest switch to implement. It contains modern technology, far superior to other switches on the market. It's a pretty bold statement. What else? So from a manufacturing firm, a large manufacturing firm, improves access and performance of the Wi-Fi network in a simple and agile way. Other quotes: good price-value ratio in most SOHO or small enterprise scenarios. Perfect switches for your Wi-Fi access point deployment. Super switch with no hassles. You'll read all kinds of things out there. Quality products that generate efficiency. These are all quotes from reviews that we've had. Please check them out. Excellent performance by cnMatrix. That's coming from a CIO and executive director at a healthcare, in the healthcare industry. Rad, what do you think?
So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's a good spectrum of different verticals talking about cnMatrix. You also saw them hitting on the aspects of simplicity, cost effectiveness, and performance. So those are good proof points. And again, I think Gartner Peer Insights is something that anybody can go access and check out these reviews, right?
They should.
Very good. So it's been fun, John.
It has been fun, Rad.
I think a lot of good information here, and hopefully the audience would also appreciate what we are able to share today. But there's a lot more information available on cambiumnetworks.com. We thank you for tuning into this session and look forward to future sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.